going out there today? Are we doing good? Had a few hours off, so I thought I'd come out and smoke a pipe out here today. A little bit windy. Hopefully not get too much wind noise. Smoking and you're not gonna be able to see that with the backlight, are you? It's just one of those Stanwell. This is a billiard rusticated, sandblasted. I think they call it a rusticated. I don't even remember what the number is, but the ones that Pipes and Cigar had on sale there for a while. It may still, I don't know. Got me some Peter Stokkebye Luxury Flake in there, which I do enjoy. And I loaded it with Eric Random World, his flake loading method. I'm not sure what to call it. Stuffing. You kind of tear off an end and rub it out, tear it, like it looks like regular, and then you kind of fold and rub and stuff and put the little granules on top and light it up. Works pretty good. I'm experimenting with filters in there. It had one of the Stanwell filters in there, and I smoked the first bowl with it, and I don't know, I wasn't that impressed. Seems like halfway through the bowl, the draw started getting really bad. So now I've got I think it's a Savinelli Balsa filter in there, and we're about halfway through the bowl. So far, so good. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, as you see in the title, I'm going to talk a little bit about a story about massive headaches. And I probably will not be able to keep this pipe going while I'm talking, but there was this guy who was having incredibly massive headaches towards the end. He'd been having these headaches for years, and slowly as he got a little bit older, the headaches got worse. As he got older, the headaches got worse and worse, and he didn't want to go to see a doctor. He just knew the doctor was going to tell him, something crazy, serious, bad was wrong. He was going to die or whatever, which, I mean, I don't know. Why not go to the doctor and figure out what's going on? Maybe you are going to die and he can fix it. I don't know. Maybe not, but at least you know. So anyway, maybe it's something simple. So it started, he was married. It started affecting his life. On his job, the headaches got so bad he would have to, call in sick more often. He was taking over-the-counter medication like, I don't know, like 10 or 12 and 15 and 20, like aspirin at a time, and it wasn't even really touching it, wasn't really having an effect on it. And his wife kept on him about going to see the doctor, and he'd get up late. He'd try to sleep as long as he could, but the headaches would wake him up. And finally he started coming home because he didn't want to hear his wife talking to him about, you got to go do something about this. She was, concerned, rightfully so. He thought it was more nagging, and so he would, they lived in an apartment, apartment building a couple blocks from where he worked, and there was a bar in between, so on his walk home, he would stop at the bar, and that would, he would drink a little bit, and that would ease some of his pain, or dull it maybe is the right word, and then he'd be coming home late, and then his wife would want to know what's going on, and it kept getting worse and kept getting worse. And finally, his work cut his salary because he was missing so much work, and now they were having major financial problems. He was having a tough time, making payments on the bills. And then one day, after he called in sick, he went to work the next day, and the boss said he had to let him go because he wasn't able to do the job anymore. And he said, what I can do is I can put you on medical leave. That way, at least for the next 30 or 45 days or whatever it was, you'll still have insurance. That way, if you want to go to the doctor, you're a good worker. We like having you around here. But if you want to go to the doctor and figure this out, at least you'll have insurance. Once you get the problem figured out or solved, or a remedy or solution or something, call us back and we'll see what we can do we'll get you back on. And depending on, what's happening and what your workload can be, So he stays out at the bar extra late. That night, when he does get home, he tells his wife. His wife says, "That's it, I'm done." She says, "I can't live like this anymore. Now, we couldn't pay bills before. Now there's no way we'll ever be able to pay them." And she says, "I love you and everything, but I don't want a divorce, but I can't live like this." So she left him. She moved out. And so he's there, moping around for a couple of days. And so he finally goes to see the doctor. And the doctors, of course, the first thing they probably think is maybe he's got a tumor or something up there. So they're running all kinds of tests, and I don't know whether it's CAT scans or whatever it is, dog scan, some type of scan, PET scan. And so they don't see anything up there. They start doing blood work. They start, what's the thing where they put you in like the torpedo tube? Is that a CAT scan? I don't know what that is. Anyway, they're doing every single kind of test they can on it to try to figure out what's going on. And they send him home and they tell him, come back we'll call you for a follow-up appointment when we get the results. So, about a week and a half later, 7-10 days later, they call him and say, "Come in on such and such a date, such and such a time, and we'll go over your results with you." So he goes in, the doctor says, "Well, I got some good news and I got some bad news." He says, "The good news is we know exactly what's causing this." He says, "It's incredibly rare. We see it, 1 in a million times, 1 in a million people, 1 in 5 million people maybe." He says, "But we know what's causing it and we know how to fix it. It does require surgery, but it's easy. It's minimal risk surgery. This kind of surgery is done all the time." And the guy's thinking, well, this is good news. It'll solve your problem. You will not have, at least you'll not have a headache related to this. You may have, stress headache or some other type of headache, but this will solve your problem. And he says, and if you do not do this surgery, he says, you're probably going to die. Not necessarily because of the headaches. He said, but you're going to kill yourself with the drinking, or you'll turn to drugs, or he says, even if I give you prescription drugs, you'll take so many of them to ease the pain. And he says, and you'll either mess up an organ, or you'll get depressed, or something. And I think this table is shaking here as I move. And so he said, well, what's the surgery? He says, well, that's the bad news. He says, we're gonna have to castrate you. He says, what? He said, now castrate me. He says, I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing here. He says, we're talking about headaches in my head, right? Yeah. But isn't castrate mean you're going to cut my testicles off? Yes. How does that solve my problem? How does that even relate it? He says, again, like I told you, this is a 1 in a million, probably more or less than that, 1 in 10 million case. He says, but what's happening is your testicles are putting pressure. They're pulled back and they're putting pressure on the base of your spinal cord, and it's causing your headaches. And the guy says, you are full of it. You're lying, you're feeding. He says, listen, I am serious as a massive headache. I'm as serious as a heart attack. He says, this is nothing to mess around with. If you do this, he says, it's not really going to affect your life a whole lot. Surgery, piece of cake, minimal invasive, really hardly any risk whatsoever. Of course, there's risk with any surgery. He said, but it's up to you. So the guy thinks about it. He says, well, I don't know what else to do. I got to have my job back. Maybe I'll get my wife back. He says, I can't keep taking over-the-counter medicine because that's not doing anything. I don't want to turn to, other street drugs or anything. I'm getting tired of drinking, and I'm going to, damage a liver or whatever. So he agrees to the surgery, and, they proceed with the surgery. He wakes up in the hospital. He's coming out from the anesthesia. Doctor's, in the room checking his charts and everything. Nurse is in there. Doctor says, hey, how you feeling? The guy says, well, I'm feeling great. No headache. He said, well, yeah, you're not going to have a headache. You're still under anesthesia. You just woke up. He says, we'll find out in a few days. He says, we're going to keep you here for a couple days, observation. You know, again, with any surgery, risk of infection or whatever, but he says everything went well. He said shouldn't be a problem. So they release him in a couple days, and he gets a taxi at the hospital, and he's feeling good, feeling like a maybe like half a man, but like a new man. And so he has the taxi drop him off, you know, like 5-6 blocks from the house, because you know he wants to walk, and you know, I mean, it's like he's never seen the world before, and fresh air, and man, a new outlook on life. And so he's walking around, no headache, no pain, and he passes by this clothing store. So he goes into this clothing store, and he says, you know what? He tells this older sales guy. He tells this sales guy he's just coming home from the hospital, just had surgery. Now that he's, you know, medically better, he doesn't tell the guy what's going on, but he says, now that I'm better, he says, I want to get a new suit of clothes. He says, that way I can call my boss, go in, talk to him, tell him what's going on. I want to be, you know, look nice and impress him. He says, and I'm going to call my wife. See if he kind of told him that he lost his job due to medical, you know, issues. And he lost his wife. So he said he was going to call his wife back, see if he could maybe take her out for dinner tonight and talk things over and let her know what happened. And the guy says, all right, sounds like a good deal. He says, here, turn around. He, you know, turns him around, looks at him, looks him over, holds your arms out. He says, you look like you're about a 44 regular. The guy says, you know what? That's a pretty good guess there. He says, how do you know that? The guy says, I'm a professional salesman. I've been doing this for, you know, 40 years, 50 years. He says, that's my job to know this. So he goes and grabs a jacket off the rack there, puts it on him, perfect fit. And I said, that's pretty amazing. And the guy says, well, you're probably going to want a new shirt. Well, yeah, I'll need a new shirt. He looks at him, kind of, you know, spins him around, holds his arm out. He said, you're probably about a 17, 33 long, 33 in the sleeve. I says, I don't know how you do that. He says, that's pretty amazing. The guy gets it, he tries it on, perfect fit. Absolute perfect fit. Picks him out a tie. He says, what about shoes? Yeah. Says, looks like you're about, let me see that there, turn it this way. It looks like you're probably about a 11.5 D. He says, that's exactly my size. How do you know all this? He said, the guy says, listen, I'm telling you, I've done this all of my life. I can pick out anybody on the street and I know what size they are. As far as men's clothes anyway. And so, it's so windy I keep my lighter lit. So he says, well, how about a hat? He says, yeah, I think I would need a hat. That would look pretty good. He spins him around. Let me look at your head. He says, looks like you're a 7 5/8. Guy says, it's been a long time since I bought a hat. That's probably pretty close. The guy says, he's thinking, yeah, I know it's pretty close. He says, I know it's right. He goes, gets one, puts it on. Man, that is a perfect fit. He says, you are really good. He says, I guess that's it. I'm ready to go. The guy says, you said you might be getting your wife back tonight, right? Well, yeah. He says, how about some new underwear? Well, yeah, I might need some new underwear too. He spins him around, looks at his waist, you know, moves the jacket back, looks, spins around, stand up, you know, lean this way, lean that way. He says, 36. And the guy says, that is amazing. And the salesman says, no, I told you, I know I'm a professional salesman. I know how to do this. And the guy says, no, it's amazing that you're wrong on this one. He says, I'm a size 34. The salesman says, there is no way you are a size 34. He says, I've done this all of my life. I know you're a 36. The guy says, listen, I don't mean to hurt your feelings. No, you know, nothing bad about you. You can be wrong. It's all right. He says, I am a size 34. I've been wearing size 34 underwear since I was 18. The guy says, that's impossible. He says, you're a 36. If you were to wear size 34, it would put so much pressure on your testicles up against your spine, you would have massive headaches.